it's fascinating to have worked with so many editors, with so many designers, so many publishers around the world in about 87 countries. You don't think of stitching in the overall scheme of things, and yet, at the end of the day, stitching solves a great deal of problems, whether it's navigating through the newspaper, families that share the newspaper around the coffee table, and the papers are not falling apart, or when you actually get out of Sweden or places where the papers are stitched. You are very right. You see people on an airplane in the US or in the rest of Europe reading a newspaper, and this newspaper comes apart in their hands. So if it's so practical, if it really is so, I mean, it's a non-brainer that it works, it holds the whole thing together, why is it that I would say 65–70% of the newspapers of the world are not stitched? So that is the question. I believe is that it has never become a priority. It is a production-oriented function, and newspapers are driven by the editorial department. If editors, in a choir of editors all over the world, if they had decided papers, the pages of a newspaper should be held together, hallelujah, then there would have been stitching for 100% of the newspapers of the world. That's basically how it works. If they do, they just make a comment and say, it's so nice that the Scandinavian newspapers are held together. End of the discussion. It never goes beyond that to say, and why don't we do it? They have never felt that stitching was a part of the plan. And I think that this is what needs to be changed, to create an awareness. And nowadays, with the importance of navigation, the importance of making sure that newspapers are attractive products to people, and that when they are using them, they feel comfortable with them, stitching become more of a practical reality, for sure. I mean, most editors are trying to be green as well and to join the ecological brigades. And I think that when you get into a New York City subway, you see newspapers all over the place. If these papers were stitched, you will have one item to pick up. And chances are that it will get a second reading and a third reading. A lot of people don't like to start reading a newspaper that feels touched by somebody else. Well, a stitched newspaper folded on a seat is more attractive to a second or a third reader in the subway than a newspaper where all the pages are like a big mess. So I think that beyond the practicality, you also have the issue of easier to pick up and throw away a stitched newspaper, and to be more ecologically minded and a better citizen than to have a newspaper that falls apart. So there are all the good reasons to do it.